release of the Squid Game event in Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Treyarch released one of the worst zombies game modes I've probably ever seen in my entire life. This mode is dead light, green light, and it only lasts for around 10 minutes because you just simply play the game until round 10 and then you are forced to exfil. There are no Easter eggs allowed in this mode whatsoever. You're literally just playing till round 10 and that's about it. And the way the mode works is that you are forced to stand still whenever the doll is saying red light, obviously. If you move around, you just lose points, so it's not like you're going to immediately die, but once you run out of points, you will start actually dying. And the only other thing in this mode is that every now and then they'll send like really fast super spinners at you, and that lasts for a little bit as well. And that's about it. Like, that's literally the whole mode. There's literally no other purpose other than that. It is easily one of the worst modes I've ever seen in a zombies mode. Now, this is quite disappointing because we know that separate game modes is really the only content we're probably going to get in between new map releases. And considering we're probably going to get about 4 DLC maps for Black Ops 6's DLC season, we need to have stuff in between there. And the stuff has to be actually good and replayable. And obviously this mode is not good or replayable. So in this video, I wanted to go over a bunch of different ideas that I personally have for game modes that they should do and that could easily work in Black Ops 6 Zombies or any future Zombies game going forward. A lot of my ideas are based off of already existing game modes from the past, but some of my ideas are completely brand new things as well. The first thing I need to make sure to mention is that all of these modes should be permanent. There should never be any sort of LTMs whatsoever. If you don't know what LTMs are, LTMs stand for limited time modes, and it's essentially when they throw in a game mode and then just get rid of it within a few weeks. And that is what happened to Jingle Hells, which just got taken away recently, and it's what is also going to happen to Dead Light Green Light in just a few weeks, which I'm not really upset about that because this mode kind of stinks, but for future modes, they should never be limited time. That just doesn't make any sense in Zombies, and let's hope it never happens again. The first game mode I'm going to suggest is, of course, Grief mode, and now this is a very obvious one that is already actually rumored to be coming to this game. Grief was originally in Black Ops 2 Zombies, and it was a 4v4 mode, which I guess could technically be 3v3, 2v2, 1v1, doesn't have to be 4v4, but it could be up to 4v4, and essentially it was a mode where you have to be the last team standing to win. So basically your goal was to just make sure to stay alive as long as possible and hope the enemy team goes down first, and that's how a team wins, is if the whole other team goes down and then your team is remaining after completing a full round. And then, yeah, there you go. It's basically just normal round-based zombies other than that, but that element of, trying to sabotage the other team was really exciting, hence why it was called Grief. And since it's already leaked to be in BO6, it probably will be returning. But I'm just a little bit worried that they're going to kind of water it down a bit and make it not as exciting as Grief was from Black Ops 2. The only reason Grief in Black Ops 2 worked is because they made the game more challenging by taking away Juggernog, at least on certain maps. Like I know on the Mob of the Dead cell block version of Grief, you couldn't use Juggernog, which made things more exciting, because if you take Black Ops 6 Zombies as it is currently and you don't change anything with the Grief mode itself, then there would be kind of a boring mode. There would be really no intense moments because it really wouldn't be that hard to stay alive for a long period of time. There would have to be things that make it harder, and one of the things that made it harder was obviously just removing Juggernog. So honestly, that could be something they can do here as well. They could also cut off certain parts of the map just to make it a bit of a tighter map. So for example, if you were playing Grief on Citadel, maybe the village and spawn area would not be playable, and rather it would just be the castle area that is playable. And maybe on Terminus, it would just be the interior areas that are playable, and you don't actually get to go to like the islands or the more open grass areas on the island itself. Like, there's a lot of different places that you can easily train around, and it's not too hard to stay alive for a while. But if you're doing Grief mode, you have to make it so it's very easy to die consistently. That's how you keep it exciting. So I think that would definitely be something they have to do. Or honestly, limit what you can get, like limit the amount of armor plates you can get, which I know players didn't like that about Jingle Hells, but in a mode that's meant to be more competitive, I really don't think people would have as big of an issue with it. At least if they maybe change around how the zombies work, maybe don't have so many different super spinners and stuff like that, so armor isn't as necessary. And no matter how much I love Grief mode, I do think there would be a better alternative to a competitive zombies mode that they could do, and this would be Zombie Blood Rush. So Zombie Blood Rush is actually already a custom game mode built in Black Ops 3 Custom Zombies. And this mode works very different than Grief, but it kind of has a similar concept, except for the fact that you can actually kill other other players. Now, instead of the goal being just to survive as long as you can, the goal is actually to steal other players' points or just make points yourself. You're trying to get a certain amount of points to win, and one of the ways where you can get points is by killing other players and taking their points. So it's kind of like a mix of multiplayer and zombies elements, but put into a specific zombies map. And trust me, I've played that mode quite a lot in Custom Zombies. It is some of the most fun I have ever had in Call of Duty Zombies ever, and I think it would be absolutely incredible in Black Ops 6. Another mode I would love to see return but revamped would be Gauntlet from Black Ops 4. So Gauntlet from Black Ops 4 was a mode that was on every single map in that game, and it was essentially similar to the regular round-based versions of each map, but instead there was a specific challenge given to the player each round. Now sometimes the challenges were very fun and interesting, like for example forcing you to use a specific gun on the map that you didn't already have. Like for example, it would sometimes force you to use the Essex Model 07 weapon, which is obviously a very bad gun, and it would make that the only weapon you could use on that round. Some rounds would force you to crouch the whole round. Some rounds would force you to go to specific areas of the map and survive there. Like there's all sorts of different challenges that they presented you with, and it was the same order of challenges for each map every single time you played. Now the only issue with this mode is that some of the challenges just straight up weren't interesting or fun whatsoever. Like some of the challenges would literally be just boarding up a certain amount of windows on the map, and the fact that the challenges were always the same order just made the mode feel a little bit too repetitive. So what a revamped version of Gauntlet could look like is having completely different orders of challenges each time you play, and having all the challenges be very, very fun. This is honestly what this new Deadlight Greenlight Squid Game mode could have been. Imagine if they made it in a way to where you have all sorts of different challenges each round. One of the challenges was the whole red light, green light thing that makes you stand still for a bit, but that wasn't something that consistently happened every round, and instead you had other challenges implemented as well, maybe even Squid Game themed challenges. And ideally, just like the Gauntlet mode, it would last all the way up till round 30. And what Gauntlet actually did for two of their maps with 9 and Ancient Evil, it actually ended with the main Easter egg boss fight as well. Now, obviously, thematically, that doesn't really make a lot of sense for like the story, but who cares? I think that would be a great way to end the Gauntlet mode, and it would be also just a fun way to replay the boss fight without actually having to do the Easter egg itself. And giving a reward for beating each Gauntlet would also be really cool. Technically, Black Ops 4 did do that, but they gave you these really shitty calling cards. So obviously, this time around, they should do something a little bit more interesting, like, you know, camos or weapon skins, something that's a little bit more exciting than just a calling card. The next game mode idea is something I've also seen in Custom Zombies before, and it's kind of a no-brainer, and that is Gun Game. Gun Game is obviously a multiplayer mode where every time you get a kill with a weapon, it switches to a new weapon, and basically to win, you have to get through all of the weapons. Now, this is something that would work really well for competitive in Zombies, because you can kind of challenge other players to get as many kills as fast as humanly possible and get through the weapons as fast as possible. So maybe each weapon would be like 50 kills per weapon or something like that, and you would slowly go through the weapons as you're also going through the rounds. Maybe at a certain point through the guns they get upgraded, or you have to upgrade them yourself, and then it will just upgrade them all throughout, you know, the rest of the ones that you get. And eventually someone's going to get to the final weapon, and then they win the game when they finish that final weapon. So maybe it would last, you know, like 20-30 minutes. It wouldn't be like too long of a match, but it would be a fun challenge thing to see how fast you can do it. There would be different speedrun challenges people would do with this mode. I think it would be quite fun. It would be fairly simple to implement, I'm assuming. Another mode that's kind of similar would be Sharpshooter. So Sharpshooter is also a multiplayer mode, but instead of you switching between weapons after you get a kill with it, you instead switch between weapons after a certain amount of time. So this would work in Zombies in a similar way, where maybe you'd get, you know, a minute per weapon or something like that, and you just have to try to survive as long as you can. Just like in normal round-based Zombies, it's just completely unlimited time, but you just have to, you know, switch between whatever weapon they give you whenever they want. And maybe the rarities would also switch around as well, so you might get stuck with a really bad gun for over a minute long at certain periods of time. And interestingly enough, there was actually a gobblegum in Black Ops 3 called Disorderly Combat that did a very similar thing to this, but it didn't last like a minute with the weapon. Instead, it lasted like less than 10 seconds. But regardless, that same concept in a Zombies mode for the whole time would be really interesting. And of course, make sure Easter eggs are enabled. Now, obviously that would get a little bit dicey with the swords. I'm not sure how that would work with that exactly. Maybe it'd only let you pull out the sword like every couple minutes or so, and it would only let you pull it out for like less than 30 seconds at a time, something like that. I'm sure they can kind of figure it out to make sure players can still do the Easter egg even with this whole Sharpshooter thing. I think that would be just so interesting, because imagine being in the Citadel More boss fight and just having to switch between different weapons while you're fighting against the Guardian. I think that would be so interesting and a lot of fun. Now, the next idea I have is definitely less likely than these other ideas because it would require Treyarch to actually make specific maps for this idea. Or they could, of course, reuse assets. I really wouldn't be against them doing that for a mode like this. There's definitely assets throughout Black Ops 6 or maybe even Modern Warfare 3 or Modern Warfare 2 that they could probably bring over into this game in some way, shape, or form. It's all in the same engine now. I'm sure they can find a way to do that. And this idea is essentially challenge modes in Zombies, similar to the Get High mode from Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. So if you don't know what the Get High mode was in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer, it was essentially this challenge mode where there was this giant parkour course that you have to get through in a certain amount of time. Now imagine that same parkour course, like literally you can copy and paste the same one from MW3 multiplayer, but you also have zombies there as well. Now what does that kind of remind you of? Cheese Cube. If you've played Black Ops 3 Custom Zombies or World at War Custom Zombies, you probably know what Cheese Cube is. And I have been wanting Treyarch to do an official Cheese Cube for years. Now, it doesn't have to actually be full-on Cheese Cube, but they can literally just take what Sledgehammer made. I'm sure Sledgehammer would be fine with that. And utilize that parkour course and then just throw zombies in there. So you now have to get through this parkour course while you're trying to survive against zombies at the same time. Now, they wouldn't have that crazy time limit on you, obviously, because the time limit is just kind of ridiculous if you're fighting against zombies as well. That wouldn't make any sense. Instead, make it just like Cheese Cube where it's unlimited, and instead it's round based. So you're basically getting through this parkour course, getting perks as you go along, getting new weapons, and it's getting increasing in difficulty as you're getting through it. That would be so much fun. It would utilize all the different parkour stuff that was already in that map, but throwing in a bunch of zombies. Again, for the challenge aspect of that, it would be incredible. Next up, I gotta go with Onslaught. Onslaught is something a lot of people have been wanting for a while. Even in Modern Warfare 3 last year, we all wanted Onslaught to come to MW3 because it makes sense. You already have different game modes with zombies built into them within the multiplayer. There was a whole horde point mode back in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer that had zombie spawns on the multiplayer maps. And now we have Infected that even has some Black Ops 6 zombies bosses like Vermin already on it. So why not just let us play some of the Black Ops 6 multiplayer maps, but in zombies? It doesn't even have to be all of them. It could literally just be like a couple of them. Maybe just like Nuketown, Skyline, maybe one or two others. It doesn't really matter. Just a few of them at the very least. And also, I wouldn't want it to work exactly like Onslaught from Cold War because I feel like Onslaught was basically just round-based survival, but with less options and less choices. So I think the best way to do it would be to just give us a Pack-a-Punch machine, a mystery box, a Wonder Fizz machine, and then just have zombie spawns, and then boom, there you go. Just survive as long as you can. That's literally all you need, and people would have a blast with that. It would be a lot of fun as a side thing to do between the brand new maps releasing. This would just be some extra content that literally nobody would have a problem with it existing. To be completely honest, if Treyarch added even just half of the amount of modes I talked about today in this video, I think that would be enough content to hold us over between map to map. And I really don't think any of my ideas here were too crazy of ideas that would take them too much development time. They need to stop spending time on these LTMs that don't go anywhere and then get taken out of the mode in 3 weeks. Just no more of that. Just add in modes like this that have actual replay value to them and are actually going to stay for the entire life cycle of the game, and then even after the game's life cycle is over, they're just going to stay there permanently. That is what we need in Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Zombies. Of course, I do think the maps could have a little bit more depth to them themselves as well. I think that would also help with replayability. Citadel more, no matter how much I enjoy the map, I do think I got bored of it a little bit too quickly. But at the very least, if they were to add these separate game modes in, it would hold us over to the next DLC maps a little bit easier. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will see you on my next one. Peace out.